You have a productivity hack, an easy productivity hack. Instead of spending time getting in the mood to work, just start working. Confront the work. People think they need perfect conditions to start, when in reality, starting is the perfect condition.
I'm married to that. I love that. Because if you think, like I obviously am somebody who always wants to optimize how much work I do per unit of time. And so I was, there was definitely times earlier in my life I was really romanticized by these like very extensive morning routines and supplement rituals and like all this stuff of mental masturbation around the work that needed to be done. But when I looked at 2 hours later and nothing had actually gotten done, the moment you begin working is when your output per unit of time goes up. And so that makes
the one thing that I really do enjoy about Hormozi stuff is he defines words and defines things in such a way which is like there's always a kind of goal. So there's always like, this is what I'm trying to achieve. So like then, for example, he was like, when you start working is when your unit of time or the unit of time for the amount of work you get done goes up. The reason, like, he's basically saying is that if the goal is to increase the amount of how much he can produce within the smallest amount of time, if he can get more out of those hours that he's working, that like, just because he's got this morning routine that's supposed to get him ready, it doesn't actually affect anything as much as just doing the work does. I just love that, like, he defines almost everything that he talks about.
The single greatest hack that you can have for everything else that you do in work. Because the thing is, when you start working, you start getting in the mood to work, right? Like everything else is procrastinating around the work that you think you should do. But like, I have noticed, for me at least, I have some big mental tasks, you know what I mean? Like big content piece or big thing that you need, like, it's going to take real mental effort. It takes me like 5 minutes of actually being in it to then get a little bit of a lay of the land to then get into it. But I used to take hours to delay to start the first 5 minutes. And so my time compression of when I thought I should start doing something and when I started doing it over time is just compressed to the point where it's like the moment I think that I need to start doing it, sometimes I just start it, because then what happens, I get this open loop. And so rather than complete work at like, because a lot of people are like, I want to complete it at this really nice clean point. Stop halfway through the sentence, because it'll drive you mad.
That's the Zeigarnik effect in full work. Do you know this story, Zeigarnik?
I don't.
Oh, wow. This is
well, that's way more than I do.
That's what you shut up. That's what you're leveraging here. So the Zeigarnik effect was a study originally done on servers in restaurants.
Okay.
And they realized, you've ever been at a restaurant and a server comes up and stands with their hands behind the back and go, what would you like tonight, sir? And you say, I'll have the lobster roll and a glass of red wine and a blah, blah. And you're like, this motherfucker's not, he hasn't got a pen or a pad of paper. He's crazy. And then they go off. And what they realized was servers in restaurants were unbelievably good at being able to recall exactly what a table's order was while that table's order was still open. So guys in table 16, they want to swap the peas out for a little bit of extra rice, and they're doing this thing. Yeah. As soon as the table was closed, they couldn't remember anything. So this is an open loop, closed loop system, and it's built into the brain. The brain abhors an open loop. It's the same reason why Netflix cliffhangers at the end of every episode guarantee that you'll watch the next one, because you can't bear the fact. There's even novels in the dark romance genre that make guarantees that there won't be cliffhangers. They put it on the front or the back of the book, and they say no cliffhangers guaranteed, which is, people have so much distaste for it that it's a selling point that you get.
Yeah, so that's interesting. So it's like, if something's not finished, then all we do is think about it, which is really interesting, because like, I think that can go into a lot of things, really. That goes into life in general, which is like, not only from a work standpoint. I know that if I haven't finished a piece of work that I need to get done, it is all I'm thinking about. And this is one of the things that I've changed. Like, if we're talking productivity, I now have my days in a way which is like, if I'm doing client work on a day, so on Tuesdays and on Thursdays, big client days for me, lots of PT, lots of coaching, I won't try to do my bigger pieces of work, any content, any working on the book. Like, I won't try to do that, because if I'm like halfway through writing something and then I have to go and PT or coach someone, like, I'm coaching this person while thinking about the book that I'm writing. And it's just like, that in itself, to me, is just so frustrating. Partly because I'm not giving that person a good service, but also because all I can do is think about that book. And it's like, it's interesting that you're saying leave that open. I think like you could leave things open if it's something you're going to wake up tomorrow and get on with straight away. Like I I have to make notes as to what I'm going to do tomorrow. So like if I'm working on a piece of work and I haven't finished it, I have to go through and go like, okay, well tomorrow or Wednesday or Friday I'm going to do that, that and that to kind of help me carry on. Because I think like if I do this type of thing, because it's 2 or 3 days by the time I get back to doing that piece of work, I actually am probably worse because I go to do that piece of work and I forgot what I was doing and where my thought process was. So like I talk about this in another video about creativity, which is like giving myself the ability to just be creative and not putting time constraints on that, because then I can just work and be creative for as long as I need to be creative. And the only thing that normally stops me is sleep. So it's like I just go to bed. So it's like this is, I think, works really well if you are getting up straight away tomorrow and you are working on that thing again.
The closure at the end of it.
Yeah.
And finishing halfway through a sentence reduces the activation energy required to begin that sentence the next day, and it keeps it in your mind to overnight. So
This is what I mean. If it's the next day, it makes sense. I don't think it makes sense if you have to do a piece of work and then come back to it 3 or 4 days later. I think like you have to have something to prompt you into where your brain was going. Like with anything that's creative, I think anything that is like a brain numbing task, bit of admin thing that you have to do, which doesn't take your focus, doesn't take creativity and concentration, like something else, like writing a book or whatever it would. I think this could be a really good way to do things.
I think, yeah, whether you've stumbled on it or whether you knew about it, you've managed to leverage a pretty powerful piece of psychology there.
Sick.
Going back to the work thing, another one from you that I absolutely adore. It just takes work. Shitloads and shitloads of work. Every time I try and dress it up or cut a corner, I get brutally reminded the work just needs doing. The work doesn't care who you are. It just cares that it gets done.
I'm actually going to reverse quote David Goggins on this one. But I love this quote that he has, which he says, "There's no shortcuts for you, David," or "There's no shortcuts for you, Goggins." I heard him say that, and I just love that as a refrain, which is that a lot of people look for a shortcut. But the idea that you say, like, they're not for you, you don't get to use them, you are immune to shortcuts. I just love it because then it just further shortcuts the path to the work that needs to get done. And I wrote that tweet on my, I don't know, 11th run of this presentation that I'm doing, because that's a recent one.
Yeah.
And so it was like 11 o'clock at night. And so right now I'm working triple shifts, which is not common for me. I usually do 2, not 3. So for me, a normal work day is like, I wake up, I start working at 6 or 7, and then I go until about 6-ish. So it's like 10 to 12 really concentrated hours work. And that I can do 6.5 days a week. I usually take Saturday afternoons off. And it's really just because at that point I can't work anymore and my brain's stew, and then I get my 1/2 day and then I'm good to go. And I'm rearing to kick on, to work on Sundays. My triple shift is I go to dinner and I come back at 7:30, and then I work from 7:30 until 11:30 or 1 or whatever. Right. And when I'm putting in triple shifts is when I know I'm like really gassing it. And that's when I'm like repeatedly doing 16, 17 a day of actual productive work. And I hear the same thought.
And that's the thing that he was going on about at the start, which is something that I definitely get stuck into, which is like, how much work are you actually doing when you say you're working compared to what you're actually getting done? Like, there's times where I say I'm doing work and I'm probably procrastinating. And I think this is I suppose this is the difficulty of owning your own business, is the sense of like learning how OBS works to stream is work. Learning about training to some degree is work for me. And I could go to start a task and realize I don't know 4 or 5 different things. So I end up diving deep into those things, and it's been 2 hours and I haven't done the thing I started doing. Like, I think this is the thing of not having my phone in my room when I work, or having blockers on my phone, or like having my headphones on is my biggest one. If I put my headphones into work, for some reason it just lasers me in, and I think there's something within that, and I don't know if it's similar for this, in the sense of like, it's kind of, there is just the work that needs to be done, and it's just about getting to start it as quickly as possible and actually working. Like he said, like 16 hours of productive work. That's a lot of work, man, to be like honed in on. And I do think you probably get used to it, and I do think if a lot of it's creative work, then it can probably, it makes sense if you're in the flow of things. Like and everyone's so different, and this guy's on the extreme, and there is something like in outliers like this is like, Hormozi's advice is amazing. Like genuinely, if you own a business and you're trying to improve it, like just consume every piece of content that he's ever done. Just go do his 3 courses and you'll already be better and know more about business. And it's kind of like, but just know that there is a caveat, which is like, he gives his advice from his point of view and only use it if it makes sense. So doing a triple shift like this may not make sense to you because you have a wife and you have kids and you've got 3 other jobs that you're trying to do. Like, it may not make sense. So like, every bit of advice you see on the internet, just take it with a pinch of salt, or at least use the context of your own life to kind of put it around it.
That everyone does, which is like, it's not going to matter. Like, it's fine. You've like, it's good enough. Like, I hate that. Like, it makes me sick to even say that, right? Because the thing that I like, David Goggins, right? He's got like, there's no shortcuts for you. I would say the one that I have 2 that are like my internal ones. One that is probably the most common is, I will do what is required. And this work needs doing. And there's just no way around it. And it's just looking at the face of the work, and it's like smiling back at me like, no one else is going to do it. And like, I love that one. Like, when we're recording content in the early days, we were doing like 100 shorts every time we did it. And it was direct to camera. And it was the only time I could fit it in with all the portfolio stuff that we're doing. And so it was always like, I will do what's required. And that's been a really helpful refrain for me when I'm confronted with, especially when you know what needs to get done. And the second one is, but I'll know. And so like, even if it does go well, and even if everyone else says it's great, but I'll know. And it'll then rob me of all of the joy of all of those moments in that experience, because I'll know that I could have done better. And
which is that open loop thing he's talking about. It's like, if you know that there's more you could have done, that's like, I think that's the same for everyone, right? It's like, everyone feels the same. If you know you didn't leave it all on the table, it's your own self-doubt which is going to kill you and eat away at you. Like, I think that's the thing that I've always struggled with. It, like, not necessarily training, but work-wise massively. Like, it's funny, like when I spoke at the start about the in the mental health section about attacking the parts, attacking the things which are affecting my mental health the most, and actually coming up with solutions to those problems and not just ignoring them, is where I get the biggest returns and improvements on my mental health. Which is the same as this, which is basically, the work needs to be done and you can't ignore it, and you have to know that you've done the things you should have done, because then you'll leave yourself alone. Because like, I mentally torment myself. If you're the same, very similar to this, you might feel very similar, which is, you need to know that you've done everything you could. And from a training standpoint, from a work standpoint, from a mental health standpoint, all 3 things are the same. And these are the things that I talk to myself about the most. If there's something that I'm not doing with my mental health, I beat myself up about it all the time, which is probably one of the things that I need to deal with in therapy. If I know that there is a part of me from a training standpoint who didn't do a session or didn't work as hard, that'll play on me. If there is a part of me which knows that I decided to not do the things that I said I was going to do from a work perspective and do something else, I just beat myself up for it. The problem is you then stop trusting yourself and stop trusting that you can do and be the person you say you are. If you think that there is a direct correlation between who you are and who you think you are. So that's, and who you think you are is basically what you do. Because if you say you're going to do something and you do it, then it's very easy to trust that you can trust that I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do. But if I say I'm going to do something and I don't do it, then I can't trust that when I say I'm going to do something in the future, that thing is going to happen. And this is where, before you, if you've got trust issues with your partner, you want to look inwards and go, do I trust myself? Because if I don't trust myself, how could I possibly trust anyone else? How could I possibly trust that that person says they love me and they mean it if I don't trust the things that I say? And that's one of, like, yeah, this is the mental torment and these open loops and closing these down by being the type of person who does the things that they say they're going to do. I think is really important.
Thing is like, to quote myself from earlier, like, I've never regretted working harder, ever. Not once. And some people are like, on your deathbed, you're gonna, like, no, because I lived every moment of my day doing what I wanted to do. And I remember I had a boss when my first boss after college, she said this thing. I had a particularly good weekend, and she said, I'm pretty sure happiness is stringing as many of those days in a row as you possibly can. And although I hated the job, that piece of advice has actually been probably has been my blueprint for how to live, which is like, my birthday looks the same as my Tuesdays, which looks the same as my Sundays.
You know what the original name pool for this podcast was? This is the only time in history I've done branding my entire adult life, and with club nights, all you're doing is coming up with brands. Paradiso, oh, it's tropical. There'll be a flamingo. Skint, oh, it's a cheap night. It's for people to get fingered in the corner. Like, all I did was branding, right? I was the branding guy. I'm pretty good at copywriting. All I did was branding. The one time I've had divine inspiration, 3 a.m, wake up with the name, was Modern Wisdom. The one time out of every business, every night, every brand I've ever come up with, that was the one time. But on the list of the others, Mind and Matter was one of them. The other one was a quote from Tim Ferriss. It's called Crushing a Tuesday. And he said that what you should aim for in life is for your average Tuesday. Not the spectacular one-time private jet with the friends to go for the whatever. Not the UFC power slap launch party with staring at the back of Dan Bilzerian's dirty mullet.
I think this is my whole life philosophy with my work and my training. I think from the outside, my life can look very boring to people that don't understand what I do. Like, families are always going to be the worst of this. Families really do tend to struggle because they, from a good perspective, and I suppose this is a point on self-awareness to some degree, which is self-awareness comes in 4 blocks, and there's a part of you that you know and everyone else knows about you. So there is the awareness around who you are that you know and someone else knows. There's the parts of you that only you know, right? And then there's the parts of you that only other people know. And I think that's what your family see, is they see things that you're missing out on or that you don't see or you're not doing way easier than what you do because you're laser focused on what you are doing. So, which means that when you decide to live your life in a certain way, they are going to see that as not necessarily balanced or healthy. So they'll make comments on it. But this is the whole thing, is I want every day to be like my average Tuesday because my average Tuesday includes everything that I want in it. And for me, that is my work, my training, socializing to some degree, which I get through my job, and feeling like I've accomplished something on the day. I've got to finish the day being like, I've accomplished something. And even if that is my to-do list, like I set my to-do list at the start of the day, I just want to get that done by the end of the day, and then I feel great. Like if every Tuesday looks like that, I mean, like at the moment, obviously I don't come home to a partner, but that is obviously would be within there, is to like spend time with someone I love. And I do that now with friends and family. So it's kind of like, it's still there. And I think you deciding your path, because I don't think everyone can have this. I don't think everyone can have their average Tuesday being including everything you want, or at least not all of the things you want, because I think to some degree, if you work a 9 to 5 or you work a lanyard job or you work on construction and you're not necessarily working your dream, but that gives you the money that you need to then be able to go and do the things you enjoy, I think is amazing, because I think you've got a very different system, which is I have this work bit and then this play bit, whereas being self-employed or doing things you're passionate about or trying to chase, like, do a job that you love and enjoy means that all I do is my job, which I love and enjoy, but it means that my work and play are mixed, and it means that I don't get a break from what I do. I'm always thinking about it, and it's got a lot of pressure within it, which means it can lose some of that joy along the way. And I just think that, like, if you are someone in a 9 to 5, the way you could hack this is to actually just go, and this is something I get all my clients to do, or at least like when we have the conversations, I suggest to people is you start your day with something you want to do and you end your day with something you want to do. You want to wake up in the morning and you want to do something for yourself before you do something for your boss or for someone else. And the reason is because if you have 8 hours in your day where you're working for someone else, you don't have to be working for yourself before that if you're not driven to do that. But if you love something, you love reading, or you love painting, or you love going for walks, or you love training, doing that before you actually start your day job, I think could be a really good hack, because you then do your work within the day, but you start your day with something you actually want to do, and then you end your day with something you want to do as well.
Like, not that. You want your average Tuesday to look the way that you want most of your life to do.
And when I think about the days that I look back on at the end of my day and think like today was a good day, invariably it's the same few things. It's I worked very hard on something that I felt was worth doing. I worked out, and I spent time with people that I enjoy being around. If I do those 3 things, I had a good day. And so that's been.
I think, like, for Alex is based upon everything he said, and I obviously don't know, like, work's probably up there for him. Like, for me, work still is a means to an end, in the sense of, like, I want to build a business which then can give me a life that I can then spend with the people I love. Like, the connection for me, I think, is up there. I'm in this real sticky place at the moment where I feel like half of me wants to focus everything on work, and then half of me really wants connection with someone. And I think that's always the balance that I'm in. And I think, like, I'm just having to really be good at putting myself in a season of do the work now, do the work now, do the work now, because I'm probably, unless someone's got a very similar lifestyle or understands it or is self-employed or whatever, like, the way I live my life is very niche, in the sense of, like, I will get up at 5 a.m. I go into the gym for 6 a.m. and I don't leave till 8 p.m. I train within that, but, like, I just work. And then on days that I'm not in the gym is the only times I get to work on the business. So I come back and I sit here on my laptop till 7, 8 o'clock and I work. And Sunday night, I'm sat here doing this. Like, to some degree, this is work. Like, but the connection to me is probably more important than the work, but I'm in a season where the work has to be the priority. So if anything, they're on the same level. And that's something I've learned this year massively, is how important connection is to me. So, yeah.
In my, Alex's simple blueprint for doing things. And I think the point that you were making earlier, I think it's worth hitting on again, which is just that, like, most people's definition of work is a negative one, which is why they abhor it, which is also why they misunderstand so many people who quote, I'll say quote here, are successful or ahead of them or whatever, is that both people, one person says the word work and the other person hears the word pain. And so the first step to, like, becoming more successful is understanding the language that the people who are successful are using. They're actually defining the word differently. And so whatever that thing is that you actually enjoy doing, where you lose track of time when you're in it, even if it's challenging, but usually it is challenging, right? Like, it's not easy because then it's boring, right? Yeah. Which is also why the uncertainty thing is so key, right? To not knowing if it's gonna work or not. You are gonna work though, either way. Is that the people who are, quote, addicted to work make it easy to be addicted to work because they do things worth doing. And I think a lot of it is coming down to making sure that you take the few precious seconds that we have to do the few things that are worth doing for the rest of your life.
Basically, just decide what you want to do and do it. No, but I think in review of that whole video, like, the open loop thing is quite interesting. Obviously, if you have a job or a creative endeavor which you can get back into the next day, then yes, leave that loop open so you get straight back into that thing. But I think if you've got multiple days between that task, it may not work as well. I think the work needing to be done is just about being really clear with yourself on what you need to do, what you're not doing, and what you can do. And then I would probably say just make sure, from the average Tuesday thing and spending your time wisely, that every day has something in it that you love. If there are a couple of things that you love in life, just make sure that your day has those things in. Like I love my morning coffee, so I always have it. I look forward to it in the morning, and it seems really small, but it's a big thing for me. I really enjoy that. Like I really enjoy. It sounds funny, but like being organized, because when I'm unorganized, I get stressed. So creating a to-do list, making sure that my week's organized, like I love that. Like today I ticked off so many things and I put it all on a to-do list, and it just makes me feel good. Like just have something in your day which is the things you enjoy, which kind of eases it. From a mental health standpoint, I try to identify what you're struggling with, and what could be like the big things which you could change, which then allow you to improve your mental health, like in a bigger manner than just ignoring it, or than trying to do some other little thing. Like if there's one big thing that you know you need to do, your intuition's probably not wrong, so probably do that thing. But yeah, I really do like that. I'm a massive fan of Chris Williamson and Hormozi. If you're going to look up to anyone, I think it certainly could be those two.